Right now, when we think about liquid water, we tend to think of this stuff in this glass here, and it tastes good to drink. It feels good to drink when it's clean.
I can smell
And
bullshit.
it has this kind of refreshing quality to it for a lot of us. But my body is 70% water, and not a single ounce of that is in this form.
Told
The
ya.
vast majority of the water within my body is actually in a crystalline structure.
Now that's some hardcore bullshit, and I'm sure you'll be happy to find out it's also something that you can categorically show is not true. But we'll come back to that.
If you could guide us to understanding what you're sharing in your 8-week program around water, at least as a high level, could you guide us through that?
Meet Jay Shetty. In 2023, he interviewed Biden on mental health, filmed at the White House, no less.
Where we want to get to or what our challenges are. But Mr. President, I'm so grateful for your graciousness and kindness in giving me this time today.
So yeah, no, he's a well-grounded wellness blogger. He presided over the wedding of Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck. And he won a Streamy Award for health and wellness, as well as, according to Forbes, having the #1 healthcare podcast in the world. However, for all that, he doesn't seem to know a single thing about biology, biochemistry, water, or life, as he shows by not giving a single bit of pushback, whilst this doctor spouts the most scientifically illiterate bullshit straight to his face for over an hour.
If you've ever seen Jell-O, eaten Jell-O, made Jell-O, you see liquid turn into a solid. And that gel-like structure within Jell-O is the result of complex crystal structures of the water organizing itself around proteins.
No, Jell-O jellifying is because of entanglement in polymers. That's why you've got to heat the stuff up to actually get it to dissolve in the first place, and then when it cools down, you form the cross-linked structure.
And that's how I hold water. And it turns out that my biologic age and my likelihood of disease correlates perfectly with how much crystal water do I hold.
Cool, so all I have to do is take that crystal energy from the Jell-O and incorporate it into my own body somehow, and I'll be immortal.
That crystal water is holding something within it, and it's light.
Okay, I have to hear how the water that has crystallized in my Jell-O is somehow holding light.
In a very amazing biologic phenomenon, this planet is able to capture solar energy in chlorophyll, which are tiny little mitochondria that live inside of plants, little bacteria. And these chlorophyll have been able to take CO2 and turn it into batteries.
Yeah, that's a pretty tortured version of photosynthesis. A more accurate version would be that plants can turn light, carbon dioxide, and water into sugar. Not so sure I'd call it a battery. Also, minor technical point, chlorophyll is not the very loosely defined bacteria living inside of plants.
Chlorophyll, which are tiny little mitochondria that live inside of plants, little bacteria.
Those would be chloroplasts. Chlorophyll are the porphyrin-type molecules in the light-harvesting structures, essentially the pigments at the core of the light harvesting in photosynthesis. Yeah, I'm getting this sort of vibe.
This court heard expert testimony from one Dr. Nick Riviera.
And he mispronounced words that even I know, like abdomen.
But anyway, aren't you going to be telling me how the water in my Jell-O contains light somehow?
And the battery is a long chain of carbon. Double carbon bond is the most efficient battery ever invented by nature.
Yeah, except there are no carbon-carbon double bonds in sugar.
And his office was dirty. Now that I think about it, I'm not sure he's even a doctor.
It takes no energy to maintain the light within that. So sunlight is captured between 2 CO2 molecules and then 8 and then 12 and these long carbon chains.
I'm not even so sure this would pass as a high school understanding of photosynthesis.
And then we digest those by consuming food. And we liberate glucose, sugars, carbohydrates, fatty acids, and the oils in our foods. And we package that up in our liver and send it out to every cell in the body. And it turns out the human cells don't know how to use any of that glucose or fatty acids.
Actually, I think the body knowing how to metabolize sugar is the core of all metabolism.
There's no mechanism for releasing the sunlight, so it has to pass it down to the mitochondria living inside our cells. So it's basically the mitochondria in plants communicating potential energy to the mitochondria within us.
Wow, that's so deep. Although it could equally be summarized as plants make sugars by photosynthesis and we get energy by metabolizing those sugars. And I'm still waiting to hear how the water in Jello contains light somehow.
Those mitochondria start breaking apart the CO2 and start releasing sunlight back into the cellular matrix.
I guarantee you, you do not emit sunlight whilst you're metabolizing sugars.
And that's what's being held within the crystal structure of water.
That's especially bullshit. There is no light, let alone light from photosynthesis, in the crystal structure of water. It's just one of those minor details that I picked up, having studied the detailed structure of water in biological systems for the best part of 20 years. Okay, so his description of life is distorted and cartoon-like, but possibly true if you squint hard enough. But the whole thing about crystalline water is pure, tagged-on, incoherent fantasy. It's like saying the moon orbits around the Earth once per month because that's how we make our calendar. So that's how we know the moon is made of cream cheese. And when I say incoherent, I mean internally inconsistent, which is a fancy science way of saying bullshit. Seriously, if it's light getting into the crystalline structure of water through metabolism of some sort, well, the Jello has no metabolism. It has no mitochondria for the chlorophyll in the plants to talk to. So how is the crystalline structure getting into the Jello?
And that gel-like structure within Jello is the result of complex crystal structures of the water organizing itself around proteins. That crystal water is holding something within it, and it's light.
Yeah, that's pretty hardcore bullshit.
And it turns out that when I drink water like this, I'm doing very little to support the crystalline structure within my cells. For this to turn into a crystal.
Okay, let's put this muppet out of his misery. We have a name for crystalline water. It's called ice.
It takes a complex relationship to a vast array of salts, mineral amino acid complexes, and protein structures.
Yeah, all stuff found in spades in ice.
If I drink this water, it's going to feel good. It's going to feel like I'm hydrating myself for a few minutes. But I'm going to pee this out in the next 45 minutes.
Now, you might be thinking, he can't actually mean he's going to piss out the exact same water that he's just drunk, right?
If I haven't emptied my bladder, it will be sitting in my bladder. It's no longer in my body. It's outside of my body again, because this pure water has no reservoir in my body. It has to pass quickly through my bloodstream back to the kidneys and get out to my urine.
It's genuinely terrifying to see someone who is purportedly a medical doctor with the same medical understanding as a 10-year-old sitting there drinking and wondering why he doesn't piss for longer. When you drink water, it migrates around the body and has a biological half-life of about 1 to 2 weeks.
If I drink this water, it's going to feel good. It's going to feel like I'm hydrating myself for a few minutes. But I'm going to pee this out in the next 45 minutes.
Hell, honestly, I'm surprised he didn't argue that there is no water in urine. After all, according to this guy, there's no water in blood.
When you've cut yourself, you've never leaked water out of yourself, which is so weird because you're 70% water.
Well, what do you mean? What's blood?
Blood is not from the cell, right? So you'll have blood, which is a liquid state, but it's outside of the cell.
Yeah, and also 2/3 water.
Uh-huh.
The cells, when you cut yourself, you'll disrupt millions, if not billions of human cells, skin cells, deep dermis, all this. No water leaks out.
Yeah, you see what I mean? By this definition, if there's no water in cells, which are 2/3 made up of water, or the blood plasma that's 90% made up of water.
Cells, skin cells, deep dermis, all this. No water leaks out.
If that doesn't count as water, why would urine, which is also some 90% water?
It's just blood, In fact, in surgery, we're good at, keeping blood flow really tight. We inject with epinephrine, all these little tricks to tense down.
Yeah. Apparently the guy with the 10-year-old's idea of how if you drink water it goes straight out of your bladder is a triple board certified physician applying the rigor of science, the strength of humanity, and the intelligence of nature to transform the world.
Heart surgery is just so dramatic, and there is no leak. There's no water there because it's not a liquid state. It's actually in this fourth phase of water, which looks like a dense jello. And what it is, miraculously, is a crystalline structure of that H2O.
Yeah, there is no crystalline water in biology. But he's about to go totally off the deep end with this one.
And that crystalline structure lines up along the DNA of the strand of the virus or the human DNA that you receive from mom and dad to create an antenna system. And so the vibration of water around the double helix of the completed human DNA creates a vibrational antenna. And now when you hit that with light energy, it vibrates at a very specific frequency.
Okay, so here I have a molecular dynamics simulation of a venom from bee sting called melatonin, and I can put on the rest of the protein structure there, or I can have it as a Van der Waals representation. It's a molecular dynamics simulation, but it nonetheless is actually pretty good at showing you what the water's going to be like. And if you're thinking, wow, there's no crystalline water there, it's because, yeah, there's no crystalline water there. And, well, if we come out a little bit further, yeah, there is still no crystalline water there. And side point, I thought I'd seen this face before. Looks stunningly like the evil Jinn in Wishmaster.
What I meant to say was, you can take anything you wish. Is there something you trade your soul for?
DNA creates a vibrational antenna. And now when you hit that with light energy,
Bad drugs.
You're a funny guy, huh?
and so the journey into health is really a rediscovery of how do you get water into the crystal stage. And that it's a complex journey in some ways, but it is an exciting premise to begin with, is I need to be more full of light. How do I become more full of light so that I'm more vital, so I can repair at a faster rate than ever before?
Well, if you believe the crap that you just spouted, it's dead easy. You just need to eat more sugar that was created by photosynthesis by light in plants. Then you're more full of light from the sun, and you will be more vital and healthier.
Repair at a faster rate than ever before because there's more poisons in my environment than any other time in human history. I need more crystalline structure.
And yet, miraculously, somehow, despite all of those horrible toxins in the environment, life expectancy is at an all-time high. Well, minus a blip from COVID.
And so we reevaluate water at that journey from your gut into the crystal form inside your cells, where it turns into that gel battery storage place for that light liberation from the sunlight for the animation of life to happen. And so that's a little bit of a nutshell of a lot more content that could be drilled into, but that's a little bit of that flip on the head of water.
Well, that was Zach spouting completely scientifically literate gibberish for 3 minutes, 25 seconds. I'm sure Jay, with his expertise in wellness, is going to give him some immediate pushback on this bullshit. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
and yes, sad though it is, people actually watch this stuff and believe it.
Hello, bonjour. I was listening to Dr. Zach Bush on Jay Shetty's podcast, and he was talking about water. Water in our body is not like that water we drink in a glass. It's crystalline water. It's like a jello-like texture. And that crystalline water has a direct correlates directly with the more illness we have, the less crystalline water we have. The more crystalline water we have, the less illnesses we have.
Yeah, but she didn't quite seem to come to the obvious conclusion that if you want more crystalline water, all you have to do is eat Jell-O.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, and you said you can actually see your age through the quality of that crystalline structure. You can test for that? How do you test for that?
Oh, that's easy. You just get some X-rays or neutrons with a wavelength comparable to the structure you're interested in looking at, and you scatter them through the sample, and if you've got a single crystal, you'll get something that looks like this. And if it's a powdered crystal, a ground-up crystal, it'll look like a radially averaged version of it, something like this. At which point, there's not much point in measuring the three-dimensional scattering. You just measure it on one axis. And if it's a liquid, it'll look like a smeary version of that. The short version, crystalline structures are exceptionally easy to detect via scattering methods. If you get sharp peaks, Bragg peaks, then you have a powdered crystal. If you get a broad smeary pattern, it's not a crystalline structure. It's a disordered liquid. So let's take what Zach would probably say is the solution that contains the most light from the sun. A solution that's about 50% by weight sugar. So we make up our sample, stick it in a neutron beam in a neutron diffractometer, and we scatter our monochromated neutrons through it, and we record a one-dimensional scattering pattern and plot it up on one axis, and then we'll be able to see Zach's crystalline water structure. Right? Oddly, this is an experiment I did over 20 years ago. And you'll be stunned to find out that there is no crystalline structure, even in solutions containing a huge amount of glucose that was created by photosynthesis in plants. You know, from the light of the sun. Crystalline water would literally be the easiest thing in the world to spot from the Bragg peaks. And guess what? There are no crystalline water Bragg peaks in aqueous biological systems. It's something we know for a fact does not exist.
And you said you can actually test, you can actually see your age through the quality of that crystalline structure. You can test for that? How do you test for that?
Yeah. Let's see how a wellness blogger deals with this.
The easiest way to test for it is a relatively old technology. It's called a phase angle calculation, but you use an impedance monitor, which is a description of just measurement of resistance.
To the Health Master Inferno, powered by pure...
And it looks like EKG leads, if you've ever seen an EKG, 12 leads around the heart and all that stuff. They're sticky little pads. You'll put one on the wrist, one on the forefinger.
This goes in your mouth. This one goes in your ear, and this one goes in your butt.
One on the ankle, one on the toe.
This one,
and then you lay perfectly flat, and you measure across that column of...
This one goes in your mouth.
Come on!
Water that's now at an equilateral level to the earth and to gravity. You measure the amount of electrical resistance across that column.
Okay, so you measure people's resistance. Why is that called a phase angle?
And from that, you can calculate, based on body weight and your height and all of this stuff, how much water is inside every cell.
Okay, so you might be able to get a measure of how hydrated people are, but that's got nothing to do with the structure of water. Nor is there any particular reason to call it a phase angle, seeing as it's got nothing to do with phase or angles. Nor does there seem to be any documentation of this magical method, which seems to parallel the Scientology method of auditing, where just by measuring someone's conductivity, they can tell you what's wrong with your personality. And L. Ron Hubbard, the cult leader, made the amazing claims that the E-meter was so sensitive that he could actually hear tomatoes screaming when they were sliced. However, its medical utility is a little more muted, with the ruling of the District of Columbia specifically stating that the E-meter has no proven usefulness in diagnosis, treatment, or prevention of any disease, nor is it medically or scientifically capable of improving any body function. As a result of the ruling, Scientology now publishes disclaimers in its books and publications declaring that the E-meter by itself does nothing, and that it is used specifically for spiritual purposes, like torturing vegetables. I want to hear you scream. No, help me, help me.
And when you calculate that, then you get a very good biologic age and biologic estimate of your vitality. An ideal phase angle is up around 10, 12. I've never seen anybody at 10 or 12. The healthiest patients walking my clinic are typically around a 7 or an 8 on their phase angle. Anybody coming in with disease, let's go with cancer for the endpoint there, is typically around a 4. Death happens at 3.5. And so what I just told you is ideal health is 10, death is 3.5, and cancer shows up at 4.
And despite having such an amazing method of measuring how close people are to death, he's not managed to actually document this method of phase angles anywhere. Makes you wonder why Shetty didn't bring it up when he was interviewing Biden. I mean, at the beginning of July in 2023, he was talking to Zach and getting all this amazing information on how to cure cancer. And then at the end of that same month, he was interviewing Biden.
I laid out 4 things that I thought were critically important in my State of the Union. One was to make a fundamental change in cancer treatment. Mm-hmm. We can cure a lot, and that's why we put another $6 billion. I mean,
and what's really amazing is Jay didn't bring up that he interviewed a guy who basically said cancer could be averted by drinking water infused with dirt. And just to be truly depressing about where we are as a civilization, the interview with the absolutely crazy bullshit merchant selling voodoo promises for curing cancer got more hits than the interview with Biden.
And so this journey towards cancer is not only a loss of electric light and light potential, it's a loss of communication and the loss of that regenerative potential. And so we now have a whole society of humans, 8 billion of us, that are losing our light. We are dimming and we are losing our cell-cell communication. And so we started extracting these from fossil soils before the last extinction. 60 million years ago, again, 30-foot topsoil levels, the healthiest microbiome the planet has ever seen.
Sorry, what exactly made it healthy, and why you expect any of that to be left some 60 million years later? In reality, it's just pure water with some 5 milligrams of organic crap dissolved from soil in it. Sorry, that should be extortionately priced water with some tiny amount of organic crap from soil dissolved in it. In reality, of course, we know this is bullshit, as it rains frequently all over the planet, and if all that was required to cure cancer was to live downstream of a 60 million year old soil deposit, that's such a bloody obvious geographical connection that someone would have noticed hundreds of years ago.
Tap back into the fossil layer of soil and start extracting that communication network. And the first time we put this on human cells was 2012. And I got to see in my lab, which was rudimentary at the time, some of the most ridiculous things happen in a petri dish that I just didn't even believe possible.
So remarkable, in fact, that he's not going to mention any of them, nor has he ever published any of these remarkable things that he claims that he witnessed.
Just didn't even believe possible. And it was a journey from asking questions about the cancer cells we were asking questions and studying to healthy biology. Are we witnessing health in a petri dish? Is that what's really happening? Because so many things we're fixing and repairing at such a rate I never imagined before. And so it's been a very exciting journey to realize that the Earth has coded into her deep fossil soils a communication network that can help us out of our crisis.
Yeah, that's some hardcore bullshit there, designed to sell overpriced magic water. And having listened to Zach spout complete, unadulterated, scientifically literate bullshit for over an hour, do you want to see how a real professional wellness blogger responds to this?
Dr. Zach Bush, thank you for such a fascinating and unique conversation, one that was full of refreshing insights and ideas. And I'm hoping that everyone who's listening and watching wherever you are in the world, I hope that you'll go and follow Dr. Zach Bush, learn more about his incredible work. And I want you to tag us both and share your insights, your takeaways, the nuggets that stood out to you. Maybe there were messages or words that are ones that you're going to hold on to, and it's going to shift the way that you practice your health and wellness routines and regimes. And so if you've been listening or watching, make sure you tag us and share what you learned and what you gained from this episode.
Yeah, the #1 healthcare podcast in the world.
And Dr. Zach Bush, thank you so much for your time, your energy, your presence, and everything that you've shared with us today. Thank you so much.
Honor to be heard and seen by you.
Now, at this point, you might cut Jay some slack saying, well, look, he's just promoting the guy selling the fake cancer cure or prevention or whatever. He's not selling anything scammy directly himself. Right? I mean, he might just be an idiot.
Now, some of you know that my own journey began many years ago, traveling and living as a monk across India and London.
All of a sudden, it makes a little more sense why you might think that magic water would cure cancer.
For 3 years, I meditated 4 to 8 hours a day, studied and reflected, and trained my mind to ignite personal growth and help others.
Aha. I think I detect a sales pitch coming.
I want you to have the same incredible opportunity to harness your potential that I've enjoyed in my own life.
The same opportunities as you, dude. You sat there for over an hour, smiling and nodding like an absolute lemon, while a guy spouted complete and utter bullshit to your face.
I see the Pathway program as a first step in that direction. What exactly does a coach do? How is coaching different from consulting, teaching?
All right, so let's talk about the finances. This school costs $7,600. So I know that's a lot to digest. It's a lot.
Is that it is not a unilateral process. The relationship is symbiotic. This means that together as a coach and client, we learn from each other, grow together, find opportunities together. Your success is my success.
I see. But not the money. The money goes one way.
You know, but I bet on Jay Shetty. He is a well-known person. I don't think he would ruin his reputation by having very shitty, instructors.
And on top of that, you also get all sorts of other perks from being life coached by the Jay Shetty School.
Also, not to forget your coaching profile to be featured on Jay Shetty and the school's website. So do click that link. It'll be available in the CCC community where you...
And I know what you're thinking. Wow, being featured on the Jay Shetty Certification School, that's going to be worth loads. I mean, just look at this video with 300 views, or this one with 90 views, or this one with 29 views, or this one with 13 views. I know what you're thinking. Well worth the
$7,600.
Or let's take a look at the sort of thing that we might learn from how to coach yourself from the Jay Shetty Certification School.
Listeners and viewers today, describe in the comments below or in your notepad what is your definition of confidence. Or in other words, what does confidence mean to you? There are no right or wrong answers today. You are just reflecting, you are diving deeper, you are discovering your own answers within. Write in the comments, what is your own definition of confidence and what does confidence mean to you?
And you'll be stunned to find out so many people were dynamically engaged by this amazing self-help tutorial about what do words mean that they left no comments on the video. And that just happened to be the first video that I clicked on. The second was this, How to Become Productive, Coaching Clinic episode by Jay Shetty Certification School.
The Jay Shetty Certification School, thank you for being here. The first exercise is going to be a definition challenge. Try to define change in your own words. Let's start learning from each other just like last time. There are no wrong or right answers in this coaching clinics.
I like turning tomatoes into sliced tomatoes.
While we are waiting for definitions from our students and attendees, let me start with definitions by our coaching supervisors.
Change to me means just like emotion, just like fluid, like water. It's just always flowing. It's never still.
Interesting. Change is never still. That's a very beautiful explanation.
Change is when the tomato becomes a sliced tomato.
Interesting. So altering our attitudes, altering our perceptions, right? And our perspectives, isn't it?
Yes.
What an interesting view. As many times as we do the group coaching or reflection exercises, it always amazes me how each one of us has different definitions of the things that we talk and think about on a daily basis.
Get the emitter. I like hearing them scream as I change them. Yeah, people paid money to listen to this infantile crap about defining words.
How do numbers make you feel? What does a plus sign smell like?
Like it's some great spiritual exploration of yourself.
Is the number 7 odd or just different?
And because it's honest, and because reality doesn't always have a happy ending.
Hey everyone, welcome back to On Purpose, the #1 health and wellness podcast in the world.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
Thanks to each and every one of you that come back every week to learn, listen, and grow. And today I've been graciously invited to the White House, and I'm sitting with Mr. President